Welcome, everybody. We'll wait another minute or two. Thanks all for joining. For right now, I think we're going to have a smaller group. We'll see a lot of times we have people kind of join as we get started. So what I'm going to pretty much ask is that, and most of you do, once we get started, if you would just mute your microphone, that way we don't get any background noises and so forth. Okay, but then, and we're by the way, my name is Kathy. I should introduce myself before we get going here. And just so you're aware, hi, Nicole. And just so you're aware, we're a very informal group. So by all means, when you have a question, just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. As I said, my name is Kathy, and I'm one of the volunteer instructors here at Downers Grove Library. And also on the call is Annie, who is the technology trainer here at the library. And today we're going to talk, we're calling it Intermediate Zoom. And the reason we're calling it that, we started this, now it's been a while, a year and a half. And we've kind of built some of these workshops kind of step by step. So in this particular one, we're going to continue what we've kind of built on so far. And that just means in the first session, we talked about setting up an account, scheduling a meeting, and some of the audio and video controls. We're going to review that shortly. So let me just see. I did not do polls this time, Annie. I know last time I did, today I did not, sorry. But just from a show of hands, either be it your reactions or your physical hands, how many of you have a Zoom account of your own? Okay, so most of you do. Okay, Chris, do you have one, or Patricia?
Chris does, yes.
Okay, Patricia, what about you? Do you have an account? And you don't have to.
No,
Okay.
I don't. And my question is, I have a camera attached, but my video is not showing. I don't understand why.
Did you do on the lower left, you see where there's a button that says stop video?
I see mute.
Right, and right next to it, stop video. Looks like an old camcorder.
Start video. Okay, thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
We got everybody. Okay, thank you, ladies. Chris, okay, we got one other person coming in. There we go. Okay, great. And as I said, it's up to you whether you want your video on or off. I particularly like it when I can see folks, so that's always nice. But again, it's up to you. So the first thing we mentioned was pretty much if you have your own Zoom account, we're going to talk about that. Hi, Winnie. Nice to meet you. Windlin. Okay, sorry. And we're going to review some of the things as well. And as I said, we're an informal group. So if you have a question, just go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question, and we'll go from there. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to go through some slide presentation about Zoom. And then I'd like to kind of try to make it a little bit interactive, not completely, because again, we're trying to teach Zoom on Zoom, which can get a little tricky. When I tell people that's what we do, they all look at me funny, but that's exactly what we're doing right now. So I'm going to get started by sharing my screen. And here we go. Make sure everyone can see. All right. Can everyone see the slides? It should say intermediate Zoom. Yeah. Okay. I actually got a little message this time. Okay, well, that was nice. Okay, so as I said, we're going to talk about Zoom Intermediate. Just so you know, here is my contact information, my email address. And if you have any questions, be it now or after the fact, feel free to reach out and contact me. And also, just so you know, you will be getting a copy of this slide presentation. So some of you might take notes, others might not. Perfectly fine, whatever you like. But just also know that you are going to get a copy of the slides after the presentation. All right, so let's get moving along here. Okay, there we go. So as I said, today what we're going to talk about mainly is kind of just a little bit of the Zoom account, a little bit of meeting controls, and then we're going to talk a lot about screen sharing and sharing of the whiteboard, and talk about using annotation while sharing. And these are things that you can use no matter what kind of meeting or what kind of scenario you're using Zoom for, okay? So the first thing we wanted to just review is most of you have a Zoom account. You don't have to have a Zoom account to join a meeting. However, you do need the Zoom account to schedule a meeting. So that's just the one caveat on that. And when we're talking about an account, I'm talking about the free account that you can get via Zoom. And it, for those of you that have it, you know, it is a free account. You don't have to put your credit card up there or anything. No charges are posted. You don't have to put one up, so they don't have your credit card information. And also when we're talking about the free account, we're saying it is limited to 40 minutes right now, and to 100 people. And it was kind of funny. It's been that way now for a while, but I checked again today just in case they were going to start making some changes, only because last year at the height of COVID, they were extending sometimes the length of a meeting more than 40 minutes. So just FYI on that. Any questions about accounts or meetings, scheduling meetings?
Just a quick question on the amount of time, the minutes is,
Yes,
I know they made an exception to teachers as well.
right.
Do you know
Right.
if that extension is still in place?
I think as far as educators, yes,
Okay,
but at one point they were even doing it for non-education people,
okay.
like around holidays and that. But as far as I know, I believe it's still, as long as you're using obviously the your school's account. and so
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
forth. Sure. Any other questions on that? Okay. All right, and just a couple other things, just really quickly in review, a little bit about audio and video controls as well as the chat feature. Again, when we talk about these things, it's just so you can make yourself, you know, comfortable using Zoom and what have you. So when we're talking about the audio features, we're just talking, I did a few screenshots here. We're talking about that mute button, the microphone that everybody knows. Again, it just turns your mic off and on with the click of a switch there, just the click of your mouse. And it's a good idea, again, this is just a reminder, it's a good idea when you are in a meeting to have that muted, only because it really helps with background noises. You might not have anyone else in the house, but you just never know if you're at home or even in office, wherever you might be. And then all of a sudden something happens outside and you hear that background noise. So you want to have it muted, and then just like we all do this though, then when it's time to talk, you have to unmute yourself again, which is just that click of the button there. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that next to the microphone is the little up arrow. And all that does is when you click on that, it opens up another menu with choices regarding your audio, regarding your sound. So if for some reason you get to a meeting and something isn't going right, you can't hear, they can't hear something, this is the area that you'd want to go to again. Now, the same thing holds true with video. So your video is that camcorder. When there's a line through it, that means your camera is off, but that's all that means, okay? Your camera's off. You can still partake in the meeting. I appreciate that a lot of you are showing your video today, which is great, but you never have to. But also right next to that video button is another arrow, which gives you choices again for your video settings, a virtual background. This is where you would do it and so forth. Okay. And just the last one I want to review very quickly is the chat button. Now the chat button is also on your control bar. It's a little bit toward the middle of your control. So you have that microphone that says mute. You have the picture of like I call it the camcorder because that's what it reminds me of. And then a few buttons over, you have something called the chat. And again, the chat just allows you to send and receive messages, okay? And what that means is it's just a nice way. Sometimes people, when they're doing a presentation, they say to everyone, all the participants, please enter your questions in the chat. In our case, we can do either or. If you'd like to enter a question, by all means. And again, just remember when you enter a question or when you put something in chat, the default is that it's sending that message to everyone. If you only want to send it to one person, then you click on that drop down and select the person. Okay. So are there any questions about anything on sound, video, or chat before we kind of get started? I don't want to assume anything. So if anybody has some questions or review, does everyone know how to save a chat? And the reason I say that is sometimes there will be information when you're attending something, be it a presentation or you're in school, you're in a class, and the facilitator may say, okay, I put the instructions or I put additional information in the chat. Now, you can write it down. There's nothing wrong with taking the old-fashioned way of a paper and pencil. Nothing wrong with that. However, in your chat, all the way on the lower right, it's hard to see here, but I put it on the slide. There's a couple of buttons. All right, whenever you see that, those three buttons, it just means there's more options. So when you click on that, it gives you an option to save the chat. And all that means is simply that it will save everything that's in the chat. So you can do it at the end of the meeting. It will put it in your computer, okay? Usually under documents, there's a Zoom folder and you can find it there. So that's just a handy little tool in case you weren't aware of that. Okay. Any questions before we get started? I'm just going to stop real quick, make sure I got everybody yet. Oh, I still do. I think we do it. A few more people. That's great. Deegan family, welcome, and Mary, welcome. Okay. Any questions about anything so far? Because now what we're going to start is going into the new material about sharing of screen. Okay, so just a show of hands, if you will, since most of you are live, are showing your video. How many of you have participated in a Zoom call where you were able to share a screen? Okay, good. Okay, so and those of you that haven't, that's fine too. We're going to go through the process and some of the options that you have when you're sharing or when you're the viewer of that shared screen, kind of a little bit of both. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is when I share, when you see those slides, okay, my PowerPoint slides, I am sharing those with you, okay? So that's one example of it. And I'm going to go ahead and just continue there. So let's get back. are not coming. There we go. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how to start the share and what this means. Now, the reason I put this slide in here is because I know when I first started using Zoom and you're clicking all over the place and you weren't sure about things. Now I do have to say, usually I'm a little bit better at it, but just in case, what this demonstrates here is this window here, this black part is my Zoom application, okay, on my Windows, on my desktop. All right, but on the bottom here, if you remember from Windows, you're going to see your open applications. It's called your Windows taskbar. Now, if you are on a different device, be it a phone or an iPad, this may look different. If you are on a Mac, it may look a little different, and they may call it other things as well. But basically what I want to draw your attention to is this right here. It looks like that camcorder again in white with the blue background. And what that is simply if you get confused, if you get lost, if you are clicking away and you're just not sure where you're at, if you get back to Windows and click on that, you will get back to your Zoom meeting. Okay. Now, I have had that experience where in the beginning I was clicking all over the place. And then finally, I got back to my Windows screen here and just was able to get back into the meeting. Okay, so that's, I always like to kind of throw that in case anyone kind of gets lost or you have that great same experience that I had. So pretty much some of screen sharing, we're going to talk about basic screen sharing. And that basically means that you're able to share with the other members on the call whatever applications you may have open on your computer. So what does that mean? Well, you can share pretty much your whole desktop, if you will, kind of where you are right now. You can share something called a whiteboard, which we're going to talk about. That is something that's a feature of Zoom. And it's there for everyone. Everyone has that option. And then you can also share other things such as a web page or an Excel document or a Word document. So that's pretty much what we're going to focus on today. And then there are other like advanced options where you can do a portion of the screen, music, and things like that. So, but again, today we're going to talk kind of about the basics and see if we can do a few trial and error here of trying it out. So to initiate the screen sharing, now again, I want to make sure everyone understands something before I even get that far. Screen sharing can be done by the host, which in today's meeting is me, and Annie is our co-host, and all of you are the participants, okay? But screen sharing can be done by anyone in the meeting, providing that the host gives that option. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. I know one time I got carried away and started talking about screen sharing, and I said, yeah, when the host does a lot of screen sharing, but it's not just limited to the host. That's what I want to make sure you're aware of. So to start off the screen sharing process, what you do in the middle of your Zoom control bar, again, Zoom control bar starts with the microphone and moves on to your right there. And about the middle of that bar is a option called share screen. It's in green, which I think was a real nice thing for Zoom to do, so it stands out. Okay, that's how you start the process. And I just want to draw your attention to, just like a lot of the features in Zoom, whenever you see that little up kind of arrow, I call it a carrot, but not everyone knows it by that. So I want to make sure that you're aware of it. Whenever, if there's an arrow, little arrow next to it, you can click on it and it opens up another set of options, another menu for you. Okay, so just FYI on that. So once you go ahead and click on that green button, okay, Zoom then displays this screen and it says, okay, what do you want to share? Okay, you have to tell Zoom it. Do not assume that Zoom knows what you want. So in this case, usually you'll, excuse me, you'll see your first option here is pretty much your desktop where you are. Okay, this next option is that whiteboard, which is simply that. It's like, I kind of call it like an electronic blackboard, if you will, but it's white. But this option is, everyone has this, okay? Just so you know, you didn't have to pay more to get this or anything like that. Everyone has a whiteboard available to them. And then whatever other options you might have open, in this case, when I did this screenshot, I had a PowerPoint open and there must have been a YouTube or whatever else I was looking at. So once you decide what you want to share, okay, you have to click on that and then you have to click on share. Okay, so in other words, you start off by clicking on the share screen, then you get this screen and you decide which screen you want to share. And then last but not least, you click on share button right here in the lower right-hand corner. All right, so in this case, I'm going to go through an example of just sharing the whiteboard, okay, since we all have that at our disposal. So when I do that, okay, I get a plain whiteboard. Now this whiteboard, it can be a great tool for collaboration. It can also be a way for you to understand some things about annotation, which I'll talk about. And it's just a nice, it can be a fun thing. You'll see right now what we're going to talk about. Some of these things might seem frivolous in the beginning, but then we'll go into some of the other ways you could use it. So this whiteboard allows participants to write on the screen, to draw. You can answer questions. This can be used in schools. Teachers can ask a question. Students can go ahead and answer right on the whiteboard. They can actually put in information. Okay, now one of the things we're going to talk about is something called annotation, all right, which is going to be this bar right here that you probably don't see yet, but this is what I want to show you. If you go on top of your screen right now, okay, you should have an option or a verbiage that says view options. So go ahead and look at that. On the top of your screen, it should say view options. Click on that, and then it should say something like annotate, and then go ahead and click on that. Okay, was everyone able to do that? Anybody have any questions? I should have asked one thing before we get any further. This is pretty much what we're talking about, is how to do things on a laptop / desktop. That does not mean you can't use it on an iPad or some kind of a tablet and your phone. However, sometimes these options may be in a different place with different devices. Okay, so was everyone able to find it? And if not, can you tell me, just unmute yourself and tell me maybe what device you're using, and maybe we can try helping you out.
I'm on a Dell desktop computer and I don't have view options.
Okay, you don't see up on the top where it says something like you are now viewing Kathy's screen or Downers Grove Library screen?
It has a horizontal menu that says get set up, computer access, Microsoft Office, Google Zoom, Google Calendar.
That's okay. Now go on top of, let's see where you're looking at right now. Okay, you should see it on the top of your screen right now. Here, let me show you this next slide. Maybe this will help a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, on this next slide real quick, the top part of this slide has to do with whoever started the share. That would be, in this case, it's me. This bottom part is what you should be seeing right now. So in other words, you should be seeing something, see like the screen here, except it would say you are now viewing my screen, Kathy's screen. Do you see that?
Mm-mm.
You may have to move your cursor up there, move your mouse to the top
Right.
of the screen.
Yes.
Okay, it says Zoom intermediate.
No. What, can you see Kathy's screen?
See the slides?
I can see you and I can see the screen sharer view and annotation.
Okay.
Okay.
So
you
move
can
your cursor up above that.
Oh, now I see it. You know why I
Okay.
couldn't see it? Because it's behind my camera.
There you
Ah,
go.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay, so what do you want me to do?
Now, I want you to click on view options, that little arrow.
Okay, thank you.
And then you'll see the drop down and then click on annotate.
I see that. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, no worries. Anybody else? Or are we all good? Any other questions, problems? Like Annie said, and I always forget to mention this, especially if you're on a different device too. Make sure that you might have to move your cursor a little bit around, move your mouse a little bit. Sometimes it might not be visible to you at first. Okay, so here's what I want to show you here. As I said, on this slide, this top part is what it's going to look like when you are sharing the screen. That's how it looks, what it looks like to me today, okay? But for you folks right here, you're going to get this participant view, and then you're going to get an option to annotate, okay? And then once you're able to do that, you're going to get, let me just show you real quick, and then we're going to play with that a minute. This is a nice little screen. Whoops. I went too quickly here. This screen is basically going to show you what all of those annotation tools do. Okay, so it's just kind of, this is kind of a reference slide, but you can also get that same information if you just go on by your, when you see this annotation bar, you can just take your mouse, if you're using a mouse, which I always do, whatever you use, but you can hover over any one of these options, and then you can see what they do. Okay, so this is going to be a reference slide, like I said, that you are going to get, and it'll just kind of help you with that. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this. And now I am going to actually just share my whiteboard. Okay, does everyone see that? Just a plain whiteboard?
No. No, it still shows you the,
There we
now
go.
it's, now you got it. Yeah.
I didn't resume. I paused and didn't resume. See what happens. Okay. All right. Does everyone see right now? It's not a whole lot of anything right now. It's just a plain white screen. But does everyone see it? And can everyone see their annotations? Can everyone see that bar? So for instance, if you look in the bar, I'm going to click on the one that says text. When I click on that and then click on the white part of the screen, whoops, if I can spell, there you go. I just put in a text box. Okay. The next one over from it is the option you can draw. So for instance, if I just wanted to draw, I could do that. And there's all different kind of options. I could do shapes. All right, so for instance, if someone is trying to teach another individual, be it preschoolers, or a lot of times these things are very helpful for English as a second language folks too. This is just a real helpful way to go ahead and kind of instruct them on simple things. Now, each one of these, okay, on your annotation bar, each option, all right, has different selections. So in other words, for instance, under stamp, if you click on that right now, you're going to see an arrow. There's a check mark. Okay, there's a star. There's a heart. Okay, now, does everyone see that right now? Okay, so what I'd like you to do is just go ahead and experiment a little bit right here on my whiteboard. Go ahead and pick whatever you'd like, put in a text box, or go under draw and put in another shape. There you go. Perfect. All right, you can change colors. Does everyone see what we're doing? What we're trying to do? This is a way for you to annotate on someone's screen. And the reason I'm doing it this way, there we go. Who's putting in all the, oh, Winlin, you like these. She's very good at it. She likes her shapes. Okay, I need some other people to try a few things. You can go under stamp, click on the heart, and then click on the whiteboard. All right.
So just from this screen, I can click on something in the annotation bars?
Yep, go ahead and do it right now. You can try it right now because
Okay.
I'm sharing my screen with you. Thank you, Chris. I see you. You got some I call that scribbles, but I see that you got it there. Okay. Any of those things on your annotation. Now, the thing about annotation is I use this whiteboard so you can see what the capability is. All right. Now, again, right here, we're playing. I've had people use this type of whiteboard for playing games with kids, like especially in the beginning of COVID. I had one student come and say she used this to play Hangman, if you guys remember that game, with the using of letters to build words and phrases and so forth. So there's all different ways. You can also use it just to draw. You can use it to show people like different colors. Like you may say, okay, now could you do that in, let's say, blue or something like that, a different color. Now, what I've learned is that sometimes you have to go back and forth with that a little bit because my colors don't always go the first time.
Kathy, I'm
Right.
still not able to click on one of your annotations to try it out, so I'm not quite sure what I'm doing wrong here.
Okay, do you have the annotation bar on your screen?
Yes,
You do. You see it?
You
yes.
may just have, need to have two annotation bars, not Kathy's, you need your own. You gotta go up to view, annotate again.
Got it.
Yeah.
What do we do again? I'm sorry, who can see what you share? And I can't click on anything either.
So
Okay. Go ahead, Annie.
Kathy, you could say, you know.
If go on top of your screen there and where it says view options. Okay,
Annotate, right?
right,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
So you're gonna have to see two, because she's showing you her screen, but you have to have your own annotation bar. So you've got,
Right.
yours is gonna be
I'm
smaller.
sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, now you guys are going to town. I can see it. All right, so just try out the various different things. Some of these are very helpful, like the one under draw. Okay, there's a lot of different arrows that you can use. There's finally my blue. And this is where, so these things, like I said, right now you're just goofing around, right? and a lot of times this can be fun just for kids just to try it out. But what we're going to do then is we're going to use these same tools to annotate on different things that we share. Okay, now the beauty of this too is that the initiator of the share, if you will, has some special powers, if you will. All right. So for instance, if you're looking up on that annotation bar, you get, as we talked about, a little bit of text draw. You can see, just hover under your own and you can see the different options. Spotlight is something that only the initiator of the share gets. So for instance, that would be me. And see this little like laser pointer? Does everyone see that? Like I'm going to go right over here into the square. Who put my square here?
Yes.
Win, was that you? Winlin? No, somebody did. Okay. Whoever put the square there. So now I've got my little, I call it my little laser pointer. You can use that to kind of spotlight as you're going through your presentation. Okay, but that's only for the initiator of the share. The other thing you can do, you can erase things. Oh my, we have people really going to town now. Okay, I can erase things. For instance, I'm going to erase the square. All right, you can do that. You can undo. You can redo. Very similar if you're familiar with Word. Undo undoes what you just did. Redo puts it back. One of the neat things here, you can also clear things. So for instance, if I wanted to clear everything I put on there, I can do that. All right. Then if I wanted to clear everything that you all did, I can do that as well. As the initiator of the share, you get to do that. Okay. Also then, one of the nice things too is that, and again, right now, let me undo so we can see everybody's work. Right now, we're just testing the waters. But let's say you were truly collaborating on something. That's what the main use of this tool can be, is to collaborate with others. You are able to save that if you so choose. Okay, you can save it as a picture file or as a PDF. And all that means is then it just saves it. So if people were putting in information, comments, maybe you asked a question, and they were putting in various answers, you can then save it as well. Now, here's one thing I just want to show you, because Zoom is constantly updating things left and right. And this was something new that, Annie, I don't know if you've seen this yet too. When you are the initiator, as I said, this whole thing with Spotlight is something only the initiator can do. But they had the laser pointer and they also had the arrow, which is like that. That's me. But they added a new one and I was wondering what it was. Well, it's called Vanishing Pen. Okay, are you ready? You can do this if you have kids, grandkids, right? Or you can have this as a social event with some of your friends at a happy hour. And let's just say you go ahead and you put something there, and then all of a sudden, you see that? It literally disappears. I just thought that was the coolest thing. I actually found that this morning. That is something new within the past couple months. I can't exactly say the timing, but just FYI on that. So that's a new one. It literally just, like if you had an arrow, okay, I'm going to point to the 4. Do you see the 4 right? Ah, it's gone. Okay.
How do I get
And-
myself back on mute?
Pardon me?
How do I get myself back on mute?
Click the microphone button.
I did and nothing's happening.
Click it again.
A star shows up.
Okay, take your, I don't know, are you using a mouse?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you see on your annotation bar, do you have something that says select?
yep.
Click on that.
Uh-huh.
Now go click on your microphone.
Nothing happens.
left mouse button.
Left mouse button?
Yeah.
Okay,
Click on select. And then click on your mute button, click on the microphone. And then if she's muted now, I'm not going to be able to see, and I don't know who that was talking. So if you're okay, could you unmute and just say, I'm okay?
I'm okay.
Okay, thank you. Good case in point. Thank you. Okay, what happened there is when you are using these annotation tools and you're going from the different ones and then you kind of want to get out of it, what you can do is you click on that select. All that means is that then you're pretty much giving kind of control back to your mouse to say, okay, let's go forward with that. Okay. Questions, anything that we talked about here, because what we're going to do is we're going to use these on the next piece. So any questions there? Yes, no, maybe? All right, I'm going to stop the share. All right, everybody's still here. So far, so good. Okay, we have a couple things in chat. Yes, but this is being recorded. Yeah. Yeah, this is being recorded, and also you are going to get a copy of the slides and so forth. So let's go back into our share, into our where we left off on the PowerPoint. Again, this screen here is just kind of for reference. It'll kind of tell you everything that we were talking about. Okay, and I guess now I should update it because I don't have that lovely vanishing pen that I was talking about. So Annie, I have to update this. Please remind me because I'll forget. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how we can use these. Okay, now why would you do all this? Well, let's say you're going to share your screen with someone and you want to make sure that they get the point you're trying to put across, basically. So annotation simply draws attention to something. It's usually easier for people to view it and navigate it. And then also you can clarify information. Like in other words, if somebody's giving a presentation and then you want to say, okay, see this point right here. And you can go ahead and, like, for instance, use of arrows. So for instance, if I wanted to say, okay, does everyone see what I'm talking about? All right, and let's say I'm going to say, everyone see what I mean about the arrows? Did everybody catch that? Now, here's what I'm doing so we know our steps. I'm sharing my screen with you. Okay, but then you can use annotation, those tools that we were playing around with on the whiteboard. You can use them then on anything that you share. Okay, so if, for instance, this one, I went ahead and used my arrows, the use of arrows. Now, there's going to be one slight thing here that I want to draw your attention to. Anybody see the problem here? What happened? Anybody? This is going to be an example of using a web page, but does anybody see what's still left over?
The arrow.
The arrow. So what happens is when you use annotation, all right, this is going to be for the person who's presenting or facilitating the meeting or using or initiating the share of the screen, is that when you're done with one particular slide, if you will, one particular share, you want to make sure that you clear that. All right, so that when you go to the next screen, it's not there. Okay, so that's just kind of a rule of thumb. The annotation stays on that particular screen until you clear it off. So you again, when you're done sharing that, you might want to clear that off, just kind of a good rule of thumb. So in this case here, this would be an example of sharing a web page. Okay, so in this case, we're on a Zoom call. I went ahead and shared a website. This happens to be the People's Resource Center, which is a nonprofit in Wheaton and Westmont. And if I wanted to, let's say, show this to someone to say, okay, if you wanted to volunteer, let's say, and they say, oh, well, what would I do? How would I get there? What would I do? What you can do, this would be an example. You can pull down your annotation tools. And for instance, I like using the arrow a lot. So let's say, okay, if you wanted to volunteer, you could go right here to this tab to volunteer. Okay, then you could say, oh, or the person you're speaking with. Now, again, imagine that you are, hundreds of miles away to, you're just not, down the street, but it really doesn't matter. But that you are just trying to convey information. So in this case here, we have the web page that we're sharing. So let's say instead of using my arrows, another one that's kind of nice to use. Oh, let me go change my color real quick, maybe. Sometimes it does that, sometimes it won't. And you can say something like, oh, do they have anything else coming up or various events? And you're like, sure, if you go ahead and look, whoops, and look right here, here's the events tab. Okay, and this little, I call it highlighting, that's also under this draw option on your annotation bar. So does everyone see how you've kind of getting the idea of how you can use the annotation? You can again use it on the whiteboard like we did to show you the different options, but this is a true live thing that you could do for a web page. That's just one example. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clear so I don't have this going to the next thing I want to show you. All right, now web page is one thing. The next thing, whoops, I have to make sure that I get my mouse in gear. There we go. This is another example. I don't know about you folks, but I am an Amazon shopper. And I don't work for Amazon, so it's just my own use of Amazon. But let's say, for instance, you are getting together with a group of people to buy a gift for someone. And, you have to decide on which one, what price, and all that. So what you can do, you could have a Zoom call. You could get on your web browser and pull up Amazon into the page that you're talking about. And then all of you could annotate on this. For instance, in this particular one, this isn't the greatest example of product, but I was actually looking for a electronic Wi-Fi timer. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word timer at Christmas time. So what you could do though is you could say, okay, well, I happen to like this one right here. All right, and then again, here's me and my arrows. Okay, and then let's say someone else would say, well, I don't know about that. I don't know if I like that one. And then you're like, all right, well, what do you like? And then you're like, well, I kind of like this one over here. So you could have people drawing and showing and clarifying just by the use of these tools. Okay. Any questions so far? I've just got a few more examples to show you. This would be the example of a web page. This one here, oh, what did I forget to do? Anybody? What did I forget to do?
Take off the arrow
Yep, and the
and the circle.
So in other words, I forgot to clear,
Yeah.
which you can do it once you get to that page. But, you know, if you're presenting something or showing a group of people, you kind of want to try to do it before, you know, you get to that slide. But this would be an example of sharing a Word document in Zoom. So for instance, let's say you might be taking an online class, or your kids are, or your grandkids are. And the teacher may say, okay, here is a Word document that I want you to work on, and there's instructions and so forth. They could put the document just like this, and they could share it with you. And then you would be able to go and do or follow the instructions with that. So again, you have your web page to share, you have the whiteboard to share. Here's a Word document to share. Here's another one that, for instance, this is an Excel document. Let's say you're in an organization at school, PTA, a church organization, and we're going over the budget. This is a nice, handy way to put something so that everyone can see the same thing. Now, in something like this would be one of those where I would have to say, maybe you might want to see if they really want to annotate or not. You, as the initiator of the share, would, but you know, we don't want everyone going in there and changing all the numbers and so forth.
I don't mean to jump in, but I mean, this is wonderful what you're doing. But, you know, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to jump in and try this like with Excel, etc. Is it possible to get the recording in this afterward, or are you guys just doing this for internal Downers Grove Library purposes?
It's going to be recorded. It is being recorded, I should say.
Being recorded, and we have an older version, but I think I'm going to have Ed update this because there are some new things. So this will be recorded, and I'll send it the link to everybody when he usually does in about a day. So
Okay. Yeah,
Right.
as I said, I think if you can do this with the other applications, it really would help, you know, just to kind of tinker around with it. Thank
Sure.
you.
Well, here is one thing though, and this was, okay, this is to the Deegan family. I don't know who was speaking, but whoever it was.
It's Melissa Deegan. Hi, how's it going?
Okay, Melissa. What I'm going to go ahead and do, whoops, let me go back here a second.
I'm sorry for not using my name, but I'm in these college webinars with my son all the time. So
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm so
No.
tired of Zoom. I'd like to see
okay.
human beings. How about you?
Yeah, no, I understand. It's getting there, but I think Zoom is here to stay for some time. Be that good or bad. It's been here for a while, but I think it's going to be here even more. Well,
one thing, you're not going to be able to change the Excel spreadsheet. It's not like you can change the spreadsheet, but you can annotate it.
You can annotate, right?
You can't change it, so it's somebody
Per
else's
se.
spreadsheet. If you really wanted to do that, what you need to do is you need to go into something like Google Sheets. We have a class on Google Sheets too, and you need to take that class. You could do that in real time.
So basically then I can project the Excel spreadsheet or the Word document, but I'm going to have to use those annotation tools or pointer to make my point versus going in and physically manipulating it, correct?
Depending what you want to do, yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So here,
Okay.
I'm going to come out of that real quick. That was Melissa I was talking to, right?
Yep, that's right.
Melissa, right now, do you have anything open? And the rest of you can do this too. We can just try it. What I'd like is to have some of you just try sharing a screen, whatever you want to share or not share. It doesn't have to be.
I'm
Yep.
on my iPhone right now because I can do
Okay.
two. So and I don't want to switch and lose you ladies. So,
Gotcha.
but no.
Okay. Does someone else want to try a share? In other words, do you have something open on your computer, be it a web page, be it anything
I
else?
see.
A
Yeah,
document?
yeah, like I could do like a website URL, Google Drive. Okay, I
Right.
see.
Right.
Okay,
Or
ladies, can I pick a picture for you? Is that okay?
oh gosh. Okay.
I mean, it's
Go-
nothing exciting. It's my child at Nichols Library. I see.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Okay, now can you share that with us?
I'm gonna pick it, yes, and it said done. So do you see my son at Nichols? Yes, you do. Oh, that was wonderful.
Yes, everybody see that?
Okay,
That was great,
yes.
Melissa.
Okay, yeah, this worked out wonderful.
That
Okay,
was great. Good picture. Now, again, now on your, Melissa, before you close, before you stop sharing, could you just leave that up there for 1 second?
sure.
Everybody look at the top of your screen now. In green, it should say, because it says the same for me now, it says, you are viewing Deegan family screen. Does everyone see that? Okay. That's what I wanted to make sure is when someone else shares, that's the message that you see, whoever's sharing the screen. But then it's also important, Melissa's getting fancy now. She's going to start resizing her screen and seeing how it looks. That's great. No, that's great. But then
Okay,
when we're done sharing, the person who initiated the share, in this case, it's Melissa, she has to stop the share so we come back. So could
so
you
I'm
do
on
the
the Zoom app, so I'm gonna hit stop share,
stop share?
and then
There you
we're
go.
back to you. So I get it. You're the mediator, but I, in essence, like if we're in a 5-way conversation, I can share
Yes.
that document for discussion.
Yeah,
You do have to enable it though. On the screen share arrow,
Okay,
you have to say the host or the co-host have to say multiple participants can share.
right, right.
oh, I see. You
So
mean under the settings and under the meeting function.
where,
No,
right
under
where it
screen
says,
share.
yeah, right where it says share screen, if you click
Okay.
on that little arrow,
Yes.
now you might not see it real well on the iPhone. I don't know how it's going to appear, but if you click on that, there's different options, and that there's one in the middle. It says multiple participants can share. You have to make sure.
And you may not be able to see that because you're not the host. So if you got it, somebody has
Right.
to be co-host. So, but the person who is the co-host or the host, just when they come in, they just say anybody, basically they just click that and anybody can share that.
Okay, which obviously from a content and a risk from a
Yes.
content standpoint, it's best to have only the mediator being able to share, but okay, that's great. I'm sorry you saw my little boy, but okay.
That's okay.
Cool.
Can you
Thank you.
stop your share though again? Because we're still looking at.
Oh,
your-
absolutely. I'm sorry.
guy.
Okay, sounds
he's-
great.
he's
Thank you.
He's very cute, just so
Oh,
you know.
this was
But I just
before Monday. This was last week. I was like, okay,
no worries.
we're at the end. It's so sad. I was at Nichols today. There's nobody even there because they don't want to wear masks. It's just
Oh,
crazy. It's all right. Okay, ladies, I'm gonna
Does
shut
any-
it off. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to try the share? Just so you could get an experience of doing it. This is your time, ladies and gents. If you want, please feel free. You could share a whiteboard because everybody has access to that. Oh, Nicole's going to share. Oh, there you go. Yep, there you go. She's creating a spelling city. Nicole, are you a teacher? Nicole, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry about that. Yes, I am a teacher. So,
Oh, great.
and I do a lot of after school tutoring. So
Oh, great. Thank you.
this has been a great resource.
Oh, Nicole, this is great. We appreciate your putting that up there because this is a kind of what I like to call the real life examples here. I don't know all what you do with your tutoring folks, but again, if you ever wanted to use the annotation, I'm not saying you have to, it would be something to help, to draw their attention to. But again, folks, for the rest of us, this is like a really neat thing for our educators to be able, especially during these times, to be able to share these things. It's not the best, granted, in person is best. We all know that, but it's kind of maybe the next best thing. And it's just kind of an easy way. And again, if you are a parent, grandparent, or whatever you might be, just a helper to a child, it's kind of a neat thing, even if you know how to navigate a little bit. because it can help the student. Nicole, thanks so much for sharing that. Appreciate
I
that.
have a quick question. So
Sure.
my son is a senior at Naperville Central, and he's taken AP Physics C, and he's like sought after as a tutor, free for service hours, because you basically, I think what my question is they tend to talk through Google Drive and Google Hangouts, but
Right.
does this offer more features, do you feel, than talking through Google Hangouts? Because I think what he runs into is these students have these online like physics problems that are, uploaded through Pearson, but like you said, you want to whiteboard it and mark it up. So do you find this is better than the Google Suite, Zoom, for markup?
I think it depends on both Google, it's now called, I believe, Google Meets.
Yes.
But it used to be the version of Hangouts that now, but Google Meets has improved on their program as well. I think Zoom, you might have more bells and whistles. However, that doesn't mean, Annie, you want to chime in on that? Because I know you've had more experience with that. Oh, Annie, can you unmute yourself? We all do that.
I was trying to look it up. When I gave the Google Meets class, I don't think you could share a screen, but I'm sure you can now. One thing that was great about Google Meets is the closed captioning, but now
Right.
Zoom has that too.
That too,
So,
right.
so
In
that
real
was,
time.
and also you get 60 minutes.
So Annie, I have a quick question. If you want to do closed captioning on Zoom, do you have to send a request to the actual meeting administrator so that's done in real time? Do you see what I'm saying? Because like I can't.
Okay,
ahead.
the rest of the host. Okay, I guess the host has to enable it.
Right.
The good thing about Google Meets is the closed captioning is excellent, and it just
Melissa, excuse me, Annie, don't lose your train of thought. Melissa, I just put the live transcript right on.
And it's coming up perfect. I mean,
Okay.
you're going to think this is crazy, but students use that closed captioning live transcript all the time, because I guess after you've done this for 13 months, 15 hours a day, it helps so much with reinforcement.
Right, exactly. And also with that is, again, I just keep going back. A lot of times people are using a lot of this too for folks where English is not their first language. So English as the second language. So to be able to hear and then read it, see it, it's helpful as well. So
yeah, I mean, like if you're in engineering school, and I hear Michigan State is just going back online, but yeah, I mean, obviously you have a lot of TAs, that are green card holders. They're not native English speakers. This would help immensely.
Yes.
Okay.
Point taken. Yes, that's a great example. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Annie?
There's a question from Mary has a question.
Mary, go ahead. I'm going to turn this off. Is that okay?
Yes,
I'll leave it on. I can leave it on. Go ahead, Mary.
I have a question. I'm a teacher too, and when I try to do sharing a screen with my students, they are not able to hear them, and they hear something like in the background sounds. So that's something like I need to learn how to put the volume together or something.
When you're sharing, if you don't mind, I'm just going to disable this for a second. What is it that you're sharing? Are you just sharing a screen, or are you sharing like a video? Because you just brought something up I forgot to mention.
I share like a video from YouTube.
Okay.
I open YouTube page and then I try to share.
Okay, I forgot to mention something. So I'm going to go back real quick, everybody. I forgot this. I have a tendency to do that because I don't use it as much. Okay, I'm back on my slides. Okay, it says on the top, everyone should see basic screen sharing. Okay, Mary, do you see that? Whoops.
Yes.
Okay, this right here. Okay, on the bottom. Okay. All right, let's see if we can make that work. On the bottom here, Mary, when you're sharing a screen and it's like a video, whatever, there's two little boxes right here that you should check. Because what that does is that allows the sound and makes it better for the video, the actual visual piece of it, when you're sharing a video with your students.
Okay, so which one do you recommend for
Oh,
online videos like a YouTube video?
Both. So what you would do is you would open up you're in your Zoom meeting, you already have your video on YouTube open, all right? Then in your meeting, you go to share. This type of screen is going to pop up and you would see, for instance, here, let's say you would see your YouTube video that you brought up. You would click on that, but you would also click on these two buttons right below.
On the board?
Okay, you click on both and then you click share.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I thank you for bringing that up. I know that was your question, but I did forget to mention that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing because
So-
I'm always, when I share the Zoom videos with my students,
Okay.
I always have that situation. They are not able to hear. They hear the
Sure.
sound that's really bad.
One of these
Thank
days,
you.
Annie, I'm going to remember to always say that in the beginning, but I seem to forget those two little pieces, and it's an important part.
I
Because
think
if you're
remember
going-
it better though that somebody asked, so I think they'll remember it better.
This is true. This is true. All right, so I'm just going to finish up here real quick, and then we'll take more questions. If again, so annotations can be helpful. Again, you can use the annotations on anything you share, so just be aware of that. And this is just kind of some Zoom tips. When you are going to share, it's helpful to have these things open before you ever start the meeting. So in other words, like Mary was talking about, she's a teacher and she has these videos. Get those open first on YouTube so that you're all ready to go. Okay. Using annotations, it helps to kind of reinforce information when you're sharing. Remind the participants of this view options. And again, remember, that can be a little tricky depending upon everybody's screen size, what device you might be using. So maybe one of the most important things to say if you're facilitating the meeting is basically look for the view options. It's on the top of your screen, move your mouse around, and then kind of go from there. Just a couple other things real quick. You can save your screen share. You can save those annotations if you want. So for instance, let's see, I believe that was Nicole who shared what she might use for some of her students for tutoring. Maybe the one student would then, put in some answers or something like that. At that point, Nicole could save that screen share, okay? In essence, let's say just for kicks, let's say it was like a little quiz and Nicole put that document up and the student would have to go in and fill in the answers. At that point, when the student is done, Nicole could save that screen share, okay? And then that would be on her computer. She would have a record of it. Okay. Any questions? These are just some things if you're going to be hosting a meeting, just real quick. And again, you're going to be getting a copy of this, just so you know. So
Yeah, I have to finish because the parents are here, right?
I'm going to stop my share. Okay. All right. And okay, okay. And don't forget, Mary, you might want to mute. Thank you. There you go. All right. Are there any other questions? We had a lot of good feedback from you folks today, a lot of good questions and interaction. Is there
Oh, I think it'll be really helpful. Like I said, I would like to watch this again, but like if a successive weeks, like 3 Tuesdays in a row or Thursdays, you could do, intermediate, advanced, and beginner. And then maybe during the week we could sort of build up these skills because or just experiment, because this is really helpful. And I think
I'm gonna let Annie, I could see Annie waiting to respond to this one.
We do have, we have YouTube, we have a YouTube channel. And we also, with all the recorded classes on it, so you could take that.
okay.
We also have something that they really haven't promoted that much, but they're also on something called Niche Academy, and you can get it, and I'll send you a link. You can get it from the Downers Grove website. You do have to join, but I don't think you have to be a Downers Grove patron to join. And they have most of our videos, but they also have other things on there like COVID stuff. They have from all over the United States, people post these videos and we put them up. And especially Niche Academy does a great job. So I'm going to send you a link to that and you can see that. But all of our classes are recorded and we have older ones. But this one I think I'm going to, because things have changed in Zoom since we recorded this class. So I think I'm going to have them put this one up and take the other one down. So
Thank you so much.
Melissa, I'm sorry, just one, Nicole, hold your thought. Melissa, just to your point, we did have the first session with this getting started with Zoom a couple weeks ago, and today is intermediate, and then we're having advanced on September. Annie's going to look real quick because I know she.
I will send you what it's
Send
going
it
to
to
be.
you.
No, I signed up for that one. I mean, you
Okay.
guys are great. I'm not dismissing Naperville Public Library, but Downers Grove just does a phenomenal job on programming. So thank you for letting Naperville people come.
Well, we've never had anybody come, so.
And Will is sharing your screen left and right. But Will, can you stop your share for just a sec? Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? And again, what I strongly suggest, and I saw that I'm sorry, Nicole, I cut you off before.
No, you answered my question when the advance, if you're having an advance.
Yes, it'll be in a couple weeks and we kind of try to, build on things. So again, just like Melissa, just like you said, try what we've kind of talked about. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me, first of all, even before that. So please do that. But also in the start of our next session, the advanced one, I always try to review a little bit about what we've talked about. So, all right. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we'll see you in a couple weeks for advanced. And again, appreciate your feedback. Annie will be sending out the slide presentation. Annie always sends a wealth of information of a lot of other things we talked about. So she'll send that out shortly between today, tomorrow, or the next day. Mm-hmm. All right. Any other questions from anybody? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. So to my teachers and educators, good luck with things. More power to you. Keep the faith. I have 2 of my 3 kids are teachers, so I know it's a struggle. Can be a struggle, but we got through last year. It's uphill from now, I think. All right, everybody. So have a good weekend. Have a good holiday weekend. It's Labor Day. So enjoy the weather and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. Thank you. Take care.